So, this is the last day for us at the negotiations. This is, what is it, December 5th?
D5.
D5. And the thing is that my friend Lisa, my colleague Lisa, has been following the negotiations much more closely than I have. So I just want to figure out now, like before I leave the negotiations this week, what happened so far. So yeah, can you tell me, like in the beginning of the week, what was happening and how it progressed during the...
I try to, because it's hard to catch up everything, because there's so many groups who are discussing the framework, the agreement. But I followed mostly the ADP group, which is the ad hoc working group of the Durban platform, and had its last day today, and it will change in the working group of the ad hoc working group of the Paris outcome. So
basically the part that's negotiating climate change.
Yeah.
The agreement.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Exactly. And they talk about the paragraphs, the articles, what should be in the agreement, what should be out of the agreement, what should be in brackets, where is the open bracket. And in the negotiations, maybe that's interesting, it's very essential that the states bring in their points, their key points. They always said, I want to bring my key point in there. And every state has some different key points. So of course, the islands have really, really strong key points than the European Union, for example. And it was interesting to see that the diplomatic level was sometimes high, but sometimes not so high in the terms of that they were discussing sometimes, a date for 20 minutes, like should we keep this date or not, or how to proceed on that. So to sum it up, it was interesting to see a process like that, but it was also a bit depressing, I would say, because we still don't have something where we say, yeah, we can, it helps the public.
Yeah. Okay. So, like, what are the main topics that they're talking about in the text? Like, what are the main things that they're agreeing and disagreeing on?
The main points, what I saw, because there are, as I said before, a lot of spin-off groups and groups who are discussing several parts, but there is adaptation, mitigation, loss and damage, then how they will proceed after that, like they want to rename the group, as I said before, or how often will they meet in the future, when do the states have to resume, or how do you say, like a synthesis report, to sum up what they found out or what they have to change, or when they have to cut emissions, the goals, which country, how high they will set the goals, and things like that.
Okay, so adaptation is how to adapt to climate change. Mitigation is how do we reduce our burden on the climate, our emissions. Loss and damage is the people who get affected by climate change, by natural disasters and those things. They get compensation.
Yeah, the compensation may be interesting to see that why there's such a big discussion about loss and damage is because if we really would pay out the countries about loss and damage, the US and especially Europe would have paid trillions of euros to when we think back 200 years ago, how much they damaged the earth already. All the countries, or in Africa, how they exploited already the continent. They would have to pay that back. This is about loss and damage. That's why it's so critical. So
it's not about like just from now on and then forward. It's about historically the responsibility, the loss and damage historically.
But as we heard from Doreen, when it comes to talk about historical responsibility, nobody from the Western countries
they just start the blame game and then it stops.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's
the issue. What about finance? Because in Copenhagen, it said that Hillary Clinton said that we're going to promise 100 billion every year after 2020 as financing for changing energy systems in developing countries and things like that. How is this thing of the agreement progressing?
Right. The finance part started in the second half of the week. I didn't follow it closely, but what I see is that they're like throwing around numbers, like every state throws not letting New Zealand put in some numbers already at Monday.
Like a volunteer, like I will contribute this much to the fund.
Exactly.
What does it seem to be adding up to?
But it's, for me, even it's not clear how the money will be divided in which funds and how it really get them to the countries. This is not clear.
Yeah.
This is also not stated in the agreement. How the process is really then how which country gets what. It's all about this bubble of financing and the funds, the green fund and everything. So I don't know. What was your highlight of the week?
What was my highlight of the week? I think it was the action that we did today. Was the highlight of my week.
What was the action about?
It was about questioning this whole process. That I believe that this is an issue of fairness, and that if you give you pose this problem to a kindergarten class with all the facts, I think they will solve it in half an hour and be like, this is what's fair. But now there's economic and political interest, so this makes the whole process more complex. So we need to spend 170 million euros to host this conference so we can talk about it instead of the kindergarten class doing the job for us, because we have political and economical interest. So for me, it's been a lot about questioning the whole purpose of why we're here and what are we actually doing here. And are we making sufficient progress? So this action was to question that and to see what kind of roles the negotiators are playing, and just be very frank and say openly like what they're actually representing. So some are representing to continue to export oil for profit, some want to protect the corporate interests, some want to negotiate to forget about historical responsibility. So my action wanted to highlight that and how it affects human rights. So yeah, there's a different video you can see on the action and how it was made. But more on that later.
I think it was great.
What was your highlight of this week?
I don't have specific one highlight, but when I sum it up, I mean, the heads of states, I pointed out again because I just think it was just covering my interest in global politics, because I think it's interesting, and you find out who are the players on the climate discussion are mostly the players also in global politics.
So through global politics, like all the other issues in global politics are kind of seen here as well. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, no, in the power structure, in the sense of that U.S., India, China are the strongest driver here. They have kind of the power, and it's also in the globe.
And you see that in the negotiations?
Yes.
That the co-chairs would...
Yeah, clearly the negotiators of the US have such a strong voice, When they say something, we want to put brackets around a certain paragraph, it gets rarely questioned, or there's rarely a veto in the sense, like that a lot of countries say no.
Oh, okay.
It's kind of course, this you cannot put it all, but just what I followed when it comes to the INDCs. And that was interesting to see, and of course the speeches were kind of interesting, but other highlights were that I saw you meet a lot of people, you talk to people, and everybody has a different reason why they are here. And most of them, as we found out, are here to do a job, and some of them are really concerned about Earth. Like what's going to happen, how can we solve it, and we have to do something now, right now. We should have done it already yesterday. Like
the individuals, the negotiators as individuals, they feel this way.
No, people around here.
Yeah.
I mean, here are almost 24,000 people.
Yeah.
Like to get a clue what's happening here. This was, I would say, the conference itself helped to understand some procedures, to understand the importance of such a conference, even though the outcome might be, hopefully, is a good outcome. But if it's not, it should stop us to take action and to proceed, because I think at least we have a platform, at least we have a conference to change things. The UNFCCC, I think, is a good invention from the UN. It gives me hope, I have to say, because they're meeting people, like-minded people, who want to change something. And we see the politics, this is one part, but it's the strongest part maybe for an agreement, but it's not the strongest part when it comes to civil society, when it comes to let's do something, let's change something, because as we know, movements in the centuries, when you look back in history, came from grassroots, came from civil society.
So you feel like that's growing between the cracks here as well?
Yeah, and you see people here, even, they can participate at the conference. And I had a very interesting talk today about I just show it because it's so nice. Follow your dreams. You won't see it, but it's from the Brahma Kumaris University, spiritual university in India. And they just said a few years ago, you could not imagine that some representative from faith or spirit would take part in a conference like that. But since Copenhagen, they get invited every year and they get a place to speak. They even, like she said, negotiators came to her and said, can you pray for us? You know, like, even though it has nothing to do with religion right now, it has to do with hope. And they also believe, you know, enlighten up the heart. And I thought, wow, this is an info I was not expecting, you know.
To find these people here.
Yeah, and to also that they get asked for negotiators. So.
Which indicates that the negotiations are very hopeful, maybe. Yeah.
Maybe.
I think that's a great message to end on. Last question. What do you think is going to happen next week?
That's hard to answer. There will be a lot of pressure at the end of the week. Thursday, the craziness will start, I think.
Who will the pressure be on?
Hopefully on the negotiators, because they are the people who agree on that. But I hope that the message from outside really reaches the rooms inside.
Cool. I hope you enjoy these conversations. At least I learn a lot. Yeah, today's the last week of the first week, to the last day of the first.
You know what we mean.
Yeah.
It is a week with less sleep, lots of impressions, and very exciting.
I'm so tired.
Yeah.
I'm so tired. You're sleeping 5 hours a night. Less even.
Bye.
Yeah, bye-bye.